Merry Christmas. I guess that's what it is right now, because it is Christmas Day. It's the 25th of December, and I am actually walking to the gym. So this will be the first time I've ever been able to train on Christmas Day, because this gym, like I said, is code system, so I can get in there, which is pretty cool. Just had a whey protein shake with almond milk and an apple. None of that stuff weighed, by the way. It's not a huge deal. Again, when you've been kind of counting and calculating macronutrients for a long enough time, you can eyeball things very, very well, and the whole rest of this day is going to be eyeballed as well. So I'll try and catch some of the food that I'll be consuming on footage, and I think eyeballing is something that you definitely shouldn't do from the get-go. It definitely takes an experienced person with an experienced eye who has been tracking and calculating their macros for a good period of time. But I do think it is a very, very helpful and good skill to have, especially during off-season periods, in less severe dieting periods. When you're going out to eat, for example, it can be very, very helpful. So that is what I'll be doing in legs this morning. So that is that session done and dusted. My legs are shaking. I'm trying to get into a position where you can see me on the camera here. Let's just lean against this piece of equipment. So I just wanted to speak to you guys very briefly now. I know this is probably a bit late because this will come out after this period of time, but it's useful for future years. My perspective on Christmas, and there's a lot of fit pros and a lot of people have very strong opinions about this time of year of kind of calories don't count, or remember how many calories are in your pumpkin pie latte, whatever it is, or you shouldn't train, this is for downtime, and you don't do training and don't go to the gym, are you obsessed, blah, blah, blah. Very much a person that believes holidays, this time of year, is to do things you enjoy, main thing you enjoy, that doesn't stress you, that allows you to feel good as a person, because we're all on earth for ourselves. You can't be 100% selfless all the time, and this time of year everyone's being a bit selfish in some ways, and if you're the person that doesn't want to train and training is actually something that you don't enjoy that much, then yeah, sure, taking a downtime over this period of time, totally cool. But if you love training, such as myself, training is one of the favorite part of my day, so to be able to not train on Christmas Day is kind of a bummer, because there's a lot of sitting around not doing much. Obviously, you still get involved with all the friend and family activities, everything that's going on. You don't just be a complete social outlier or anything. But if you want to go train and you enjoy that, why wouldn't you go do it? That's kind of my opinion on it. So with all these things, I'm just very much down the line for my clients, so we can totally not track on Christmas Day. We can totally just go and you can just enjoy the day, and then we'll get back on track after Christmas. Totally fine if you want to take Christmas period off. However, you employ me as your coach, and for us to get best to our goals, we can manage this in a bit of a stricter way that still you enjoy and you're happy with, because you know you're still productively moving towards your goals. And that's what a lot of my clients want, is that actually this time of year is a bit of a stress for them, because they feel like there's no middle ground. It's either they have to just be dedicated, continue with their meals, continue with their training, or they just are completely off. And you kind of find this nice middle ground where it's okay, what's the severity of your goal? Are you competing early next year? You need to be pretty tight. Are you in a mass phase and you're in an off season, you're not competing ever or for a long time? Then totally just enjoy Christmas Day for what it is, and be a little bit mindful, get your protein in, cool, and then get back to your training when the gym's open and when you have time. Totally fine. And if you can think ahead of time, you can always plan a deload over this period of time. You can always have just an ad hoc few light rest days, active recovery, then get back to it. But the moral of the story, don't let others pressurize you into thinking you have to be or do a certain thing. do what you enjoy, do what stresses you least, that allows you to enjoy this period of time the most. So I'm going to get back to the festivities. I believe there's a lot of cheese, which I'm not a massive fan of, so I'll probably end up consuming some of my own protein sources. It's just me. Anyway, guys, check you later. A Christmas Day walk on the beach. And actually it's quite sunny. This is a nice change. What are you doing down there, huh? Just chilling. She is the only dog on a lead, apparently. So we're just on our walk on the beach, and we haven't had the best of mornings. Unfortunately, initially, so they were playing with a ball, Ada and Freddie, and that led to Charlotte's mum's hand being bit by Ada. And then we just had another altercation where now Freddie's had to go to the vet because Ada ended up biting his leg. So we don't know if they can even be friends anymore, which is rather unfortunate. So we haven't opened any presents or anything yet. But we're going for a walk, and my foot hurts. I think it's because of the excessive amount of walking that I've been doing recently. I think I've clocked up like 20,000 steps for like the last 4 days. I think yesterday was 17,000, 18,000, and yeah, my left foot is hurting. So I think I'm actually getting an overuse injury with that. So I have to be careful because, yeah, I don't want that to happen too much.
Stick with me and we'll go places. Why can't Cinderella play football?
Because of a slipper?
She keeps running away from the ball.
So I'm just going over my push session now, and I'll also be doing some pulling in a minute. And I thought I'd talk to you guys a little bit about the differences between dieting and massing, and some things that I've already started to feel, even though it's been only a short amount of time that I've started dieting. And one of the immediate things I felt was that there was just less leeway, less smudge factor. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in a mass phase and I've got that surplus kind of aiding me and assisting me through my training, if I screw up a little bit of nutrient timing, or if I have maybe a poor night's sleep, or if I kind of push my RAR a little bit too assertively, I'm a little bit too egoistic in a certain moment, the next week, because of that surplus, I have that bit of smudge factor and I can kind of get away with it, for lack of a better term. Whereas when I'm dieting, if my sleep's off, if my nutrient timing is off, or if I overexert myself, I start feeling it pretty quickly, and it catches up to me fairly rapidly. And I think this just relates to the fact that when you're in a deficit, fatigue accumulates faster and you can't dissipate it as quick. Whereas when you're in a surplus, you have far more recovery capability, and you can kind of get away, quote unquote, with some of this kind of overexertion or kind of less perfect kind of scenarios. And it's kind of similar to cycling down like a cycle path versus cycling down out in the park. Massing is like cycling in the park. You can kind of screw up a little bit, turn a little bit wrong, and you're fine. But if you screw up on the cycle path, you might get hit by a car. So it's just far more risky. So that's something I've definitely noticed when cutting, is I just need to take care of things a little bit more. And I certainly noticed this when I was having to combine my AM and PM sessions during the period of time over Christmas. And something that maybe a lot of you guys are familiar with is the volume landmarks, in that your minimum effective volume when you're cutting actually comes up a little bit. So the least volume you need to do to grow comes up a bit because you haven't got that anabolic signal coming from the surplus. But your max recoverable volume comes down, so you haven't got as much recovery capability. So your window of progression really goes a lot smaller, so you have to be way more conservative about things. So when you're dieting, just in general, you have to take much more care over many details. Not that you shouldn't when you're in a surplus, because obviously you can still benefit from all of that. So guys, hope this has been insightful. Enjoy my final few reps here and the rest of this vlog. So I just hit up my final session in the gym in Bude, and I don't know what called it, the gym. I train in the gym at home. Anyway, so I was just thinking and reflecting on, I'm kind of excited and a bit anxious to see how much I weigh when I'm home. This is the final day in Bude, but we've got today back home, so at my parents' house. Yeah, excited and anxious to see what I'm on the scale on Monday morning, because I have been estimating my calories here. So any dinners, it's mostly like roast dinners, I've been estimating those and ballparking them, and I've been eating between 2,500 to 2,600, a little bit higher, slightly higher than last week, but nothing much, because I didn't want to be overly strict this week. Like last night, there were celebrations out on the table, and I just really fancied some. So I had 4 of those, and it's funny how your taste buds change so quickly when you diet. I know if I was massing, they wouldn't really faze me at all, whereas now I'm like, wow, though, like the Snickers tasted fantastic. And that is something to be aware of. Taste buds can change very, very quickly when you start dieting. So if you're in a mass and you're already loving food and feeling a bit diet fatigued, and then you go into a cut, my God. I was way over food. I was nauseous to the point of eating and didn't fancy anything. So the fact that I'm already thoroughly enjoying my food after 3 weeks of dieting tells you quite a lot. So anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how I weigh, because my steps have been kind of similar. My activity has been, I'd say, similar, but I do feel more stressed having to do it whilst away. So I wonder if I'll be retaining any water. I think I'm looking leaner, but it's only a week, and I'm only early doors into the diet anyway, so we'll just have to see. And if I'm not quite where I want to be, it's not a problem. I'll just keep on dieting, keep moving forward. I won't make any needless adjustments. It's likely, if my scale weight hasn't come down, I either screwed up my estimation, which I don't think I did, or my activity was on the high, or I'm holding on to stress, which is probably holding on to stress. Stress causes cortisol to rise, and that cortisol rise can lead to extra water retention. So yeah, that could be what it is. Anyway, signing off.